So here we go, yes, we are back in the games room and it's time to do one of those pickup videos. Didn't actually do one last month, so this one is a bit of a double whammy. So double your pleasure or double your pain, depending on how you want to look at it. But bit of a hint of what's to come there. A certain machine, certain console is out. Could that mean there's involved in the pickups? Who knows? You have to watch to find out. Enough yapping really. There's plenty of yapping already. Let's just go over there and let's have a look at what games I picked up in, well, December and January really. Okay, let's start off with the Saturn and Cyberboss Full Metal Madness. So I'm well chuffed to finally get this one. It's been on my wish list for ages to get this limited edition set, and I've been trying to hold out on a decent price on Yahoo auctions, trying to win some bids. But to be honest with you, it's always gone higher than you can get in online stores. I've got a feeling that people think it's more limited than it actually is, so some of these biddings are going higher than it's actually worth. So my advice to you, if you want to get this one, do shop around. It's not so limited as you might think, and it's probably cheaper than you think as well. So shop around on this one, you probably get one in nice condition on one of your online shops in Japan. As you can see, it comes with quite a cool little art book and also a sort of like pop-up scene as well, which is kind of cool. If you don't know about this one, it is a cool little fighter by Capcom that came out on the CPS2 hardware around the same time as their other classic fighting games, you know, like all the Marvel ones and Street Fighter and Vampire Savior. Rather than using monsters or superheroes, they're actually using their mechs from their previous game, Power Gear. And they did simplify the gameplay a little bit, only using 4 buttons. But at the same time, they do mix it up with sort of focusing more on the mech characters, allowing you to target limbs and even rip them off. Of course, there is a super gauge, which allows you to sort of power up and do some super attacks. Luckily, this is also on the Capcom Beat 'em Up bundle, so you can play it there too. Next up is another Saturn fighter, it's Ninku. This is a Japanese 2D fighter based on a manga series that I've never heard of. I believe there's also a PlayStation game, but I'm not sure if it's the same one or whether it's a slightly different fighting game. This is definitely a game I've got very mixed feelings about. The first time I played it, yeah, I got a little bit put off by this sort of 3D background, but you kind of get used to it. You've got to appreciate the game for its time. The actual graphics of it, for the characters are beautifully drawn. Definitely well put together in that sort of sense, but the gameplay itself is just off. It's just slightly off. There's something about it that doesn't quite work. To me, it felt a little bit unbalanced with the characters. The first time I played it, I actually steamed through the game with one character, even got to the end of level boss. Then I tried some other characters and I really struggled, and I didn't feel it was down to my technique. I think it's more due to some of the special moves of some of the characters that made it feel a little bit unbalanced. Like I mentioned before, this is not a game I particularly enjoyed when I first started playing it, but I did kind of warm to it in the end, and I kind of appreciate it for what it is. So do I recommend it? You know, if you can pick it up on the cheap, it is a cheap game, or if you can just give it a quick go in emulation, try it out. But am I going to go back and play this one? No, I'm not. So I can't recommend it in that sense. Staying with the Saturn fighters, but this one I definitely recommend. It is a Suka 120 Burning Fest Limited. I did pick up recently the PlayStation Final version of the series, but for me this is definitely the pick of the bunch. This is the sort of last official game by Phil and Cafe. Mind you, they did release a patch version, the Overlimit version, which I've yet to play, but that was just an unofficial patch released by the employees. Unfortunately, this game seems to be more synonymous with the fact that it's an all-girl fighting game, but really, if you play this game, then you'll know that's not what it's all about. This is all about the silky smooth, tight controls, fast action, combos. What more do you want from a fighting game? These standard power gauges there, like most fighters, you sort of fill it up with the combos, but like other fighters, this one goes from 100 to 120%, so you've got a little bit of risk reward there. You can either go for one special move, or you can go for 120 for additional ones within a sort of set period of time. Where the game really stands out is its emphasis on really attacking, aggressive gameplay. The best way to defend is to attack, some really nice counter-attacking moves, and it leads towards some really interesting, very tight games where you never give up because you've got the feeling you can sort of pull back again, you can get some combos at the end and sort of sneak a last-minute victory in there. And we have our last Saturn game, Fantastic Pinball. I don't know what it is about me and pinball games, but on paper, I should absolutely hate these games. The idea, the concept before was just so boring and mundane. I thought, how could I possibly enjoy it? But along came the Crush series, and I just can't get enough of pinball games. I'm so damn addicted to them. Once I actually switch them on and play them, I can't stop. They're dangerous. If you love the Crush series like me, then you will absolutely love this game. I don't know what the score is here. It does feel like it's part of the same series, but mind you, it's a pinball game, so of course it's going to feel similar in some sort of way. But I do believe that, well, I know Technosoft did release the Mega Drive version of Devil's Crash, so maybe there's some sort of connection here. But definitely, if you love that series, you will love this game. It's got some nice little mini games in there as well, which I absolutely suck at. But generally the game is just fantastic. And even you got a little appearance of the Cho-Nikki little dude there as well, which is a cool little feature. You've got 3 different characters to choose from, and you get 3 lives where you can sort of mix it up between the different characters. It's up to you as you play along. I have no idea what the differences are in the characters. I didn't go into that much detail. I was just enjoying just playing it as it is on face value, to be honest, without digging any deeper. But yeah, I need to do some research to find out what the differences are, a little bit more history of this game. If you haven't noticed already, I kind of like this one. Okay, moving on to the PlayStation 1, and unfortunately we've got Bomberman Fantasy Race. This is by no means an exclusive. Definitely came out in North America, probably came out in PAL 2, but it's dirt cheap in Japan. It was only like 500 yen, so that's why I picked it up. And yeah, I probably wish I didn't pick it up actually. It's absolutely terrible. I love my kart races. I mean, I was playing Mario Kart day 1 when it came out. God, but this is just a crime to humanity. Bomberman, classic series, and a kart clone. Surely you can get this one right. Oh, what a pile of absolute crap. Even at 500 yen, I feel like being ripped off, and I apologise for even sticking it in the video, but it was a pickup, I got it, and there it is, and the least we say about this one, the better. Okay, with that out of the way, let's move on to something a little bit better, Gear Fighter Dendo. Again, it's another one of these PlayStation 1 Japanese exclusives based on a sort of anime series. I don't know how popular it was or whether it was just made for sort of like a toy range or something like that, but certainly it was not going to be released in the West. It's definitely an interesting kind of game. At first impression you think it's going to be a sort of average brawler, but they do mix things up a little bit. There's actually 3 distinct sort of gameplays to it. You kind of got this sort of boss level sort of fighting aspect, and you've even got this sort of side-scrolling kind of like a shooter, but not. You're sort of just barging into stuff rather than shooting them, which is kind of interesting, I guess, but would have been better if they just did a side-scrolling shooter, to be honest. It would have been a hell of a lot better. Thankfully, the majority of the game is the side-scrolling sort of action part of it, which even has a nice little mid-level boss that you need to fight, where you can actually sort of use your weapons that you picked up when you did that sort of one-on-one fight with the end-level boss. To stop you from spamming the sort of levels with your special weapon, you've included sort of battery mechanics in it. So you need to recharge your battery every time you sort of use your special weapon. But there's so many batteries in there, it doesn't make it too difficult to get a recharge. But one of the cool features of it is the picking up of the scenery and some of the weapons left by some of the enemies you defeat. That's kind of a nice little feature. At the end of the day, it's a fairly decent game, but nothing too amazing. Recommend you just to try it out. Last PS1 game, and it's Monkey Magic. I'm an absolute sucker for Monkey Magic ever since a kid watching the classic TV show. But this is one series that I never knew about. This is not actually a Japanese exclusive. It did come out in North America because the cartoon also came out in North America as well. Not one I knew anything about, but when I saw it Sunsoft, a platformer and Monkey Magic, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna have some of that. So first impression of the game, I was kind of enjoying going through the tutorial stages. Definitely like the crisp, clean sort of graphics, the 2D images rather than doing something exotic with a 3D, which would have completely screwed it up. And also gameplay wise as well, yeah, it's a tutorial, so it's fairly basic, but there were some kind of hints that was something not quite right, but I'll get into that in a bit. They definitely tried to sort of add some bit more depth and sort of more puzzle elements to it by adding some sort of power gems in there with special powers, which you get more as you go through the different levels. But to be honest with you, I got kind of stuck with the game. I lost a bit of patience with it, and that's mainly due to the actual playability of it. Once they introduced a heavy platforming stage that requires real precision on the jumping, it was clear that there was something not quite going right with the controls. They even have some sort of slimy sort of platforms as well, just to sort of make it even more frustrating, and I lost patience really. I struggle to think Sunsoft would have a problem like this, so I'm going to change my controller, see if that's the issue. The jury's still out. Okay, it's PC Engine time. Let's start off with TV Sports Football. So as always, I start off with the filler before I get to the killer. I tend to just pick up sort of cheap games on the side, just to fill up the box that's coming from Japan, just to try out some of these PC Engine games, just to explore them. But this one actually came out on the Turbo Graphics, and it's not too bad at all. If you like your American football, it's pretty standard. It definitely feels like an early John Madden game. Luckily they kept all the tactics and all the gameplays in English, so you can pretty much navigate and play the game without any language barriers. So if you like your American football and you've got PC Engine, I'll give this one a go. Like I mentioned, you don't expect to pay anything more than maybe 400 yen for this one, maybe 500 yen. Okay, we're going to rock down to Quiz Avenue. Oh no, did I buy a Japanese quiz game and I don't speak Japanese? Yes, I did. Well, it's part of the NEC Avenue subset, so yeah, I did. But through modern technology, I can look like a genius and look like I know Japanese and get the questions correct. Well, some of them anyway. I actually kind of had fun going through some of these questions, seeing what they were asked back in 1991. Some of the questions, yes, they're very unique and they relate to Japanese culture of that time, things like album covers and songs. But there's also some sort of global stuff in there. You know, there's some questions on chemistry, deserts, things like that. Overall, it's kind of fun to go through it. And like I mentioned, it was just a cheap filler game and sort of fills into the subset. Looks like I should have gone for solder, not eyelashes on that last question. More filler, it's Police Connection. This is definitely a filler. I just saw it as a cheap game and I had the cover as well. I very rarely saw this one around, so I was curious just to grab it when I was about to check out. It was only about 600, 500 yen again, this one, very cheap. And yeah, this one definitely guilty of getting a game I don't understand. Too heavy on the Japanese text. You get a little bit bored with the constant refreshing of the phone. It looks like a board game. Maybe fun if you can get some sort of fan translation. Next up is Flash Hiders again. So this is my second attempt to get Flash Hiders. My first attempt failed when they put the wrong game in the box. But this time, it was definitely a bit of a winner. I really enjoyed this one actually. Yes, it's a very basic fighting game. Don't expect too much, you've only got 2 buttons, so you're not going to have a vast amount of different moves, but there's enough to keep you busy there, to keep you entertained, and definitely the gameplay, it's tight, it's fast, it's definitely very, very playable. But I have to say, all the variations of different modes of the game is really where the draw comes into the game. I can imagine back in the day, this would have been really good value for money. Because not only is it a standard sort of arcade fighting game, but there's a story mode as well. So effectively what you do is use 2 types of story modes where you can either choose the main character and go through a classic story, or you can go for one of the other characters. And basically you go through the different battles as you expect and you win, and you will get points that you can add and increase your strength, your speed, your defense, your attack. That's a really nice feature. I did read somewhere that the 6 buttons control is supported, but didn't see anywhere in the manuals or in the options to configure it, so I'm not sure that's true. Next up, we got a little bit of Kiri. This game had me at ninja action. There's no way I was ever not going to get this game. This is a bit of a strange one really, considering its age, 1994, you're kind of expecting a little bit more from this game, but at the same time, what it does very well. I can see why people sort of say it's similar to something like Ninja Gaiden or Shinobi, but to be honest with you, it's more of a sort of Kung Fu Master, or even a sort of more modern version of Vigilante, which, like I mentioned before, you're kind of expecting a little bit more from this sort of age of a game. The concept of the game is very simple. You need to kill a certain amount of enemies before you can sort of reach the exit, and then you'll sort of meet a boss that you'll have to defeat. Graphically it's good, but I could imagine it could have been a little bit better considering the age. But there's some beautiful cutscenes, as you imagine, for these disc systems. But really where it shines is really its playability, the movability of the character. It feels very fluent, and it's very satisfying to sort of slide and attack and do flips backwards and forwards and attack. It feels good to play. Don't get me wrong, it is a good game, but I just wish there's a bit more to it. For me, it's no Ninja Spirits. That's one hell of a game I love. But to be fair, it's tough, so maybe I do need to get a little bit further on it to make sure it's not as repetitive as it seems. Next up is Sia Monogatari, Unearthed Fantasy Stories. What's this? Another Japanese RPG that I don't understand? Wasting my money on games that I can't even read? Well, yes. If I told you it is one of Hudson Soft's last games on the PC Engine, so it's an important piece of history and one of the gorgeous RPGs ever made on the platform, would you believe me? Well, it's kind of true, but there's definitely more to the story. Those Hudson Soft geniuses released a demo disc. And in that demo disc, not only did they have, surprisingly enough, a demo of the actual game, but there's a little bit more to it. Let's have a look, shall we? So not here, not that one, nope. Try down there, nope, no, down, yes, here we go. Beautiful people at Hudson Soft included a caravan shooter. And a great one at that too. So out of respect to them, what I'm going to do is have a hidden high school challenge within my pickups video. So here you go, here's my attempt. Don't worry, it's only 2 minutes, which we've already gone past a couple of seconds anyway. So enjoy my high score challenge. And for those not interested in the challenge, please turn to page 348 of the Japanese RPG Bible, where you can read all about Seer Monogatari. I have no idea why they added this hidden little fantastic little shooter, but who cares? They did it, and let's just be thankful. I've gone from the default settings, and it's actually quite low on the sort of speed. You can actually pump up the speed quite a lot. It goes to a ridiculous level. Already this is very fast and furious and a hell of a lot of fun. Very, very simple shooter. You've only got 2 forms of shot. Of course you've got power-ups as well, but you've either got your focus shot or your sort of spread shot. Idea is just to survive as long as you can within the 2 minutes and get a high score as possible. I know a certain company that likes to do knockoffs PC Engine games. They've got a version of this as well, so you can always get a copy that way if you want to, or you could probably burn a copy yourself or get the ROM or whatever and play this one. But definitely give it a go and see what score you can get. It's really fun, and I'd be definitely interested to see if you can beat my quick attempt that I've got. I think this is the area of improvement here. This is where my little bit of a stumbling block. I should have taken them down a little bit faster because there's points galore in the next section. So if you're looking to get a higher score than me, there's plenty of opportunities to do so. So there you have it. The time is up. Lots of opportunities to get a higher score, but there you go. Before we get to the last pickups, we have to talk about a certain console, something that's a form of absolute beauty, of mystery, something that intrigued me as a kid, flipping through the pages of computer video games, seeing the form factor, thinking this console was the future, thinking it's off the set of Aliens, so much imagination. It was a wonder. I dreamt about this machine for years until I was lucky enough to actually get it and get, well, 4 of the 5 games. But today, we've got the 5th one. Freaking 1941 Counterattack. Probably one of the biggest retro collecting mistakes and regrets that I have is not picking this one up 6 years ago when I actually picked up the console and the rest of the games. I should have got this one ages ago, but I didn't, and so yeah, I paid a bit of a price for this one, but not really. The time had come to move on to some of my AES games. They're taking up too much space. I don't need them. I've got the MVS games already. You know, there's a lot of value in them, so I might as well recycle that into games I really want. This, of course, is Capcom's masterpiece, the prequel to 1942. So it's the 3rd in the series, came out in the arcade, didn't really hit the home consoles, obviously only the Super GRAFX, but it did appear later on the PSP on one of the Capcom collections. For me, this is the pinnacle in the series. They've incorporated many little features in there as well, which become standard in other shooters, including the scoring system. So you'll notice this was actually the first game to include the single-digit increment when you actually use a credit. So there's no hiding now how many credits you've used in gameplay. So what else has been changed? Well, they got rid of that sort of Twinbee sort of upgrade feature, so you don't have to worry about shooting weapons to change it now for pickups. They're just there and you can pick them up. And there's a couple of new pickups in there as well. You've got that sort of Ninja Spirits ghosting effect, which is kind of cool. Every time you start a new level, you'll be given a certain number of hits. That's the little square boxes on the left-hand corner of the screen. So you can only get hit 3 or 4 times, depending on what level you're on. And when you get hit, you just continue. You don't sort of have any checkpoints, anything like that. You do have the power-up as before, where you can hold down, which is fairly decent when you're up against some of the bosses. And one of the main changes is the fact that you can hit walls. This is probably my favourite feature. Rather than dying when you hit the wall, you just bounce off it and spin round. It allows you to take out some of the enemies that you probably couldn't take out normally. Really cool feature. This is an absolutely glorious, gorgeous game, and you just got to try it. Emulate it, whatever, just try it. So there you have it, that is the pickups. A bit of a long one, it was kind of 2 months worth of pickups, to be honest with you. I didn't do one last month, but I hope there's something in there interesting for you, some games that maybe you want to check out, try them out. Hopefully you get involved in the little challenge there and let me know what scores you get up to, and if you enjoy that little caravan game, it's a lot of fun, to be honest with you. Give it a go. On that note, I'll be thanking you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.